Hi and welcome to the video series created specifically for those people undertaking the certificate for training and assessment via distance or a blended learning approach. The purpose of this video is to assist you in understanding the assessment requirements for the practical delivery of training to a group and to individuals. In doing so, you will require a copy of your workbooks in front of you while we're going through them. In this first video, we're going to be concentrating on Workbook 2, Task 1. So ensure you have that ready and grab a pen and paper to take any notes that you see fit. The way we'll run this video is that I'll go through the instructions and give you some insight into ways of approaching each of the tasks that you're asked to do. So let's get started with the very first one, which is Task 1, Design and Develop Group-Based Learning Programs. The task requirements are that you're required to document 2 group-based learning programs with different goals and outcomes for face-to-face implementation with 2 different groups of learners in a real or simulated workplace. So that's quite wordy, but what it means is you're going to have to do 2 lots of group deliveries, of which you're only going to physically deliver one of them, but you're going to plan both of them. The first learning program has to be from a competency standard. That means that it has to be from one of the training packages that you locate on the NTIS website. So for instance, if you just want a basic office task, you can go to the business services package, find a task that relates to what you want to teach and go from there. If you want a more trade specific delivery, then you'll have to find the particular training package that suits your industry. Find a unit from within that you can teach just one part of. I'll say that again. You don't need to teach an entire unit of competency. We're only looking for your skills as a trainer to plan and deliver and assess training within a particular vocation. You don't need to, as I said, train the entire unit of competency. You can just choose one element or even one performance criteria out of that particular one. So for instance, if you are looking at one of the ones that they've used in the appendix here, which is communicate on the telephone, you don't need to necessarily train in the entire 3 elements that are included within that. You can simply choose one element and teach someone how to perhaps answer the phone in line with your particular organisation's requirements. The second learning program you can develop based on any sort of competency. Okay? So this means that you can either choose another training package, you can choose the other one that they've got here, which is preparing a bed for occupancy, or you can train something that is just specific to your workplace. Okay, maybe your own induction program or your own safety guidelines, or perhaps how to operate a particular piece of machinery. It's up to you, as long as there's some guidelines in place that you can refer to when you're planning this particular training, and you can use as a benchmark to assess the person at the end. So for example, if you're looking at operating a piece of machinery, then you might use the machinery's guidelines or their operating procedures as the benchmark from which you will assess the person at the end. On the second page of Task 1, you'll notice that it says instructions for developing 2 learning programs. This is a step-by-step instruction of what to do. The first step simply says decide on a focus for your learning program. Be guided by the direction provided for developing learning programs in Learner Guide 2. Okay, so it's asking you to have a look at the Learner Guide to get a bit of background as to what you have to do. The second thing says source the competency standards to inform your program design. All that means is go to the NTIS website, find the training package, find the unit of competency, find the element within that unit of competency that you want to deliver, and that's going to help you design your learning program. Third, work systematically through the learning program template. Okay, there's templates provided, use them. The learning program template is quite a long one. It starts with the rationale of the title, I should say, the rationale of why you'd like to do this training, what the benefit is to the organisation that you're going to be training it for, or perhaps just the community in general, and so on. So we're not going to go through that in this particular video. Review your learning program, this is part 4 now, or step 4. Review your program with an industry colleague and document possible areas for improvement. That could be something as simple as an email to a friend who's in the industry, a phone call to a friend, and just take down some notes about the conversation you had. The reason this is important is because in the vocational education industry, they being the state training authorities and the government, really put a high focus on being connected with the industry. So if you're in business, then there's the Chamber of Commerce. If you're in a trade, then it's your trade body. If you're with the hospitals, then it might be a hospital administration. Someone within that trade who can provide real world experience to your design program. Step 5 says design a cover sheet. Okay, there are some cover sheet templates in here if you're not very good with Microsoft Word or whatever you'd like to use. I do encourage you to have a bit of a play with that and create something that looks professional. If you're not that good on the computer, just use the templates that are there and plug in what you need. Okay, step 6 looks at referencing. It says include a list of appendices and references. That sounds very academic, and it can be. So what we want to try and do is avoid getting bogged down in the layout of the particular reference. Just know that it's important that if you're taking somebody else's information, whether it's from your workplace or it's from a textbook or from the internet, just be sure that you make some sort of reference as to where you got it from. Okay, there is a link there to the University of Southern Queensland website that shows a particular style of how you reference. Have a look at that. If you're familiar with referencing, that won't be too difficult. If you're not, you might want to try just copying the way they present it, usually with an author, the date, the title, and who published it. It's not that difficult. But if you've never done it before, it can be quite daunting again to make sure you get it right. The good news is that if you don't get it perfectly right, I'll just send a quick email back to you explaining maybe do it this way or change this or try this. Okay, so it's not the end of the world if you get the referencing wrong. It's more important that you include it than get the actual layout right. That's the end of the steps. The next part, it says repeat all the steps above with the exception of part 2 for the second one. Okay, so that's it. So you're doing 2 lots. The next video will look at task 2, and hopefully once you've completed task 1, created the learning program, you won't be so daunted to go into that next step. Of course, the next step includes creating some delivery tools. A very simple process, but very important for your learners. And the third part is to develop some assessment tools. We'll talk more about that in another video. So I'll see you later on. Enjoy this particular part of the assessment. It's the background, it's the planning stage. When we get to the delivery stage, we'll have some more fun. See you then.